Hey, what's going on? This is going to be Riven 3 here. I'm going to be doing a quick little video about how I made this little sprite and kind of going on about the journey of the 3D modeling process. So, as we start, we begin to get a cube, bring it to the top, get another one, scale it down, and then we get everything kind of lined up into a rough kind of size that I want. I kind of end up going the plain route just so I can extrude and more easily get everything going. From there, kind of try and figure out what I'm going to do with the arm sides. I think initially going with a solid arm, but then eventually trailing out to doing two. I end up screwing up the auto mirror, eventually get it fixed, and then get started on those hands on the side. Making sure everything's nice and scaled, so everything looks nice. Try to go with one long one, and then I decided to do segments because I felt like they were going to be a lot easier to manage when adding the rig. This is all using my knowledge that I've had in 3D modeling to begin with, and there's eventually some small artifacts that I have to do. I end up adding a camera, trying to figure out how to get it to snap to the actual viewport itself. Couldn't manage to find it, but went ahead and just manually moved it, hid the camera, gave him a nice little name, square thing, and square sprite. Sorry. Then we had an armature. Now this is kind of funny to me. Try and play around with all these settings. I eventually find like a little thing that I like, the little stick, get it into the center of the sprite itself. I'm then trying to figure out how to get the bones to appear above the mesh, and can't manage to find it. And then a quick Google search later, we do find that it's just a setting that my brain just could not manage to find. We finish up the rest of it, rest of the armature kind of here. Do kind of screw up a little bit there, but end up getting that arm set up right into the mesh, moving it 3 segments deep, then kind of just duplicating it, shifting it over to the side, toying up with the remaining little areas after a nice zoom in. I decided to extrude the bottom, and then afterwards give everything a quick little naming. Then after we name everything, we are completely done, which is awesome. And here I am trying to begin to pair it, and I don't know how to do it. So another quick Google search later, we realized that I was stupid and just didn't click everything in the right order. Eventually got it, and added some automatic weight paints. Once I added those automatic weight paints, you would think that we're done, right? Correct? 100%? Well, if we go to pose mode here, and then we hit the bone, and then we move it, we're definitely, yeah, no. We definitely have some messed up weight paints. Anyway, so jumping into the weight paint mode, I do figure out that the arms are a little screwed up. It does take me a while to actually remember how to get everything set up. It's been a while since I did some 3D modeling. But eventually, I do end up getting everything figured out, clearing out everything, and setting it up properly so that way I can move the armature or the rig itself in proper orientation. You do notice those little artifacts in the head. That's because of a little bit that I'll mention later, or I'll fix later down the line. But just quickly going speeding along, getting all of the armature weight painted properly, so that way when I move the joints, everything moves as one. And yes, coming back into hindsight here, um, there was definitely a lot easier ways to do this. For example, I didn't turn on the setting to weight paint through the mesh, which is a way to do it, and it's actually a lot faster and easier. However, I also realized that it may have been easier just to do a separate rig with the blocks tied to the actual bones themselves, um, instead of actually fully rigging, joining the mesh, and then, um, well, doing it this way. But I like to make my life miserable, so here we are. But then, with all of that said and done, um, we eventually click on the armature, jump into pose mode, move the arm, and yay! We finally have movement, proper movement, which is awesome. I love that. We give it a nice solid matte black at first, then we move to a little bit of a gray. That way we can actually get some shadows going on, and there's that artifacting that I was talking about. So what we do is we merge everything by distance, make sure everything's nice and organized. Then using the L hotkey to select everything on the head, we assign the base material down, bring up that roughness on both that body and the head so that way we can actually see everything. Then, to add the outlines, we, well, I accidentally added a stroke. But anyways, you go ahead and you add your object line on the mesh itself. Then once you actually do it, you can see it just barely there. But in order to fine tune it, go into your thing, your overview, click on line art, go into modifiers, and then you can change everything as you see fit. Toying around with it a little bit, making sure everything is nice and set to the point that I like. Realize that I kind of need a light, so I kind of use the sun, point it at the character, and then turn that brightness up to the max, so that way we get hard cast shadows, add a transparent background, so everything is nice and PNG sized, and then we pose our model here, just for a quick pose, and get that arm over, and just like that, and notice a little bit of the arm over there, that little bit on the left side of the model kind of was looping a little too hard, so I tried to fix it, and then eventually we get this right here, which is awesome. This is what I'm going to be using in the meantime to communicate with you, kind of just as like an actual face for now. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually move on to a little bit of the goals here, of the reason why I'm kind of doing this 3D space kind of ordeal. Because my goals in life are these. It's kind of big. It's a big list, but I'm breaking it down pretty small. First step, obviously, is learning 3D modeling, because the end goal is to start my own projects, 3D animation. Here on this channel, on Raven 3, I'm going to be making my own solo Dungeons and Dragons kind of short film, I guess you could call it, or TV show. That's a better anime. There we go. But I'm going to start on that. And then me and my coworker were, from my day job, we are making our own project that we will have on a completely separate channel. And I'm going to be doing a lot of behind the scenes on this channel. And in fact, I'm actually going to be making one of the characters of that show that we're making, or anime that we're making, as kind of like a leeway segue into more or less a practice. But basically, step one is to, well, learn 3D modeling. I'm currently using 2AM's tutorial videos. He mainly is female model biased. However, I'm going to be trying my best to translate it into a male model base, also by studying other male models, just so I can actually get the proper proportions and everything else. Self-analyzing male models, obviously, is part of that underneath the 2AM. But then also make Dubstep Guy, which is this guy right here. Now, this is all generated by AI. Yes, it is ChatGPT, and yes, I know that there's very controversial things within ChatGPT on whether or not what it generates is stolen or not. So this is not the actual full render of what he's going to look like. I'm using this more or less as a reference to make sure that I'm kind of capturing what I already envisioned him. I gave ChatGPT a reference, or a description, and it kind of just gave me this. This is nothing more than just a reference, just as an FYI. But next, after I make Dubstep Guy, I'm going to make assets for a building scene that I will then have him mess around with 3D animation. But on top of that, well, since his name's Dubstep Guy, I'm a dubstep guy myself. I like dubstep. So next is trying to figure out a dubstep kind of music production style and or just as like background track stuff. Um, well, this one's more or less self-explanatory. So, well, anyways, the next part of this is to learn the 3D animation side of everything. Um, Basically, I'm gonna have to be learning 3D animation basics, combat, and then also using particle systems to include spells, because a lot of this is going to be spell based. So that'll be great. And then also learn how to use CGI for all of the things for modeling and everything else if I need to use CGI, which I'll have to figure out eventually. And then obviously, number 4 is going to be starting our project. I will leave the name blank for now, but if you know it, you know it. But all in all, this channel is more or less just going to be my own personal digital journal and also animation practice with this Sprite here to express kind of emotions and everything else. Because I feel like if you manage to master the art of expressions and also keyframe movements, that animation might become a little bit easier because from what I've minimalistically studied, animation is nothing more than keyframes and then filling in the gaps in the middle. So, with that, welcome to Raven 3. Welcome to my digital journal, and this is going to be my journey to, well, modeling. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.